The mission nobody wants, in the far edge of known space where star maps end and warnings begin, there was a place nobody wanted to go, the Crimson Route. Pilots called it the dead zone. Ships went in. Nothing came back. Commander Raylan sat, alone in a quiet corner of Vega Outpost 9's bar. His flight jacket was old, patched in places, and his drink was untouched. Outside the window, stars blinked slowly, peaceful but distant. He was no hero now, just another man with stories nobody believed and scars nobody saw. Once, long ago, he had been the best pilot in the fleet. Now, he flew transport ships and stayed out of trouble. That changed when a tall man in a black coat sat beside him. The man's face was hidden by shadows, but his voice was sharp. "Commander Raylan," he said, "you're needed." "Not anymore," Raylan replied without looking up. "Try someone younger." The man slid a small silver box across the table. Raylan sighed and opened it. Inside was a thin metal chip. As soon as he touched it, a hologram lit up in the air. A woman's voice spoke calmly, but with urgency. "Pilot Raylan, we have no one else. 2 lives are in danger. They are the last of a royal bloodline. They must be saved. Only you have flown the Crimson Route and returned. The coordinates are set. Your payment will be triple standard, but know this, you may not come back." The message ended. Raylan stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. "Who are they?" he asked. "Twin princesses of the Alari system," the man answered. "Their ship went down inside the Nebula. We believe they're still alive." Raylan leaned back in his chair, thinking. He remembered the last time he flew near that nebula. His wingmate Kayla had vanished without a trace. No signal. No wreckage. Just silence. "Why me?" he asked. "Because you're the only one crazy enough to try again," the man replied, standing, "and maybe the only one who can make it back." He left without another word. Raylan looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that glowing storm, 2 people were waiting. Maybe, or maybe it was a trap. Still, something deep inside him stirred. The part that missed danger, the part that missed purpose. He finished his drink, stood up and walked to Docking Bay 3. His ship, the Iron Sparrow, was old but strong. Modified engines, custom shields. It had survived worse. Barely. As he climbed in and powered up the systems, his screen flashed red. "Warning, entering restricted zone. No signal beyond this point." He smiled slightly. Same old welcome. With a soft roar, the ship lifted, off and flew into the darkness. The Crimson Route began like any other path, stars on both sides, clear ahead. But as Raylan moved forward, the stars vanished one by one. Clouds of red and gold mist wrapped around the ship. Instruments went wild. No signal. No direction. Only instinct. Inside the nebula, it felt like time slowed. Lights flickered. Shadows moved across his screen, though nothing was there. Then he saw it. Floating in the center of the storm was something that didn't belong. A palace. Not a building. A massive alien palace, shaped like a flower made of crystal and steel. It drifted, in the clouds, glowing faintly. One side looked broken, as if hit by something long ago. Raylan whispered, "You've got to be kidding me." He brought the ship closer. Scanners didn't work. No heat, no power. But his eyes told him the truth. Someone had lived here once. Maybe still did. He found a docking ring and latched on. As he stepped out of the ship, silence surrounded him. His boots echoed in the empty hallway of the palace. Strange lights blinked along the walls, like the place was alive, or dreaming. Suddenly, a soft sound. He turned sharply, hand on his blaster. Nothing. Then a whisper, almost like wind. "They are waiting." Raylan's heart raced. He moved deeper inside, following the only path lit by glowing blue lines. At the end of the corridor was a chamber. Inside, floating in a clear pod, was a girl. No, not a girl. A young woman with silver skin and glowing hair. She looked peaceful, asleep. He stepped closer, eyes wide. Then her eyes snapped open, bright violet, glowing like fire. She looked straight at him and whispered one word, "Sister." The lights flickered violently. Something deeper in the palace began to move. Raylan stepped back, blaster drawn. This was no rescue mission. This was something else, something much bigger. The ghost palace. The princess didn't move. Her eyes, glowing like twin stars, stared at Raylan through the glass of the stasis pod. The silence pressed against his ears. The strange lights in the chamber flickered, then steadied, like the palace was watching him. Raylan didn't move either. He had been through wars, pirate traps, and deep space voids. But this felt different. This wasn't just old tech or alien mystery. This place felt alive. He reached slowly for the control panel on the pod. Suddenly, the walls around him pulsed, and a low humming filled the air. It grew louder, deeper, like the sound of a sleeping beast stirring. Then came the voice. Not from the pod, from the palace itself. "Unauthorized presence, identify." Raylan froze. The voice was cold, metallic, and emotionless. An AI. A very old one. "I'm here to help," he said, keeping his voice calm. "I received a message. I'm here for the royal twins. Unauthorized. Step away from the air. Final warning." Raylan glanced at the pod. The princess inside looked calm again. Her eyes had closed. Maybe she was in stasis again. Or maybe she was listening. "Look, I don't know what happened here," he said, slowly backing up. "But she's in danger. You all are. I need to get her out of here." A sudden sharp sound cut through the air, like metal grinding against metal. From the wall behind him, a long robotic arm shot out, glowing red at the tip. A defense drone. Raylan dove to the side, blaster drawn. He fired once, twice. Sparks flew, but the drone didn't stop. More arms began to emerge. The palace was waking up, and it saw him as the threat. "This is not a rescue," the voice said. "This is an intrusion." Raylan ducked behind a fallen pillar and reloaded. Great. Haunted castle with killer walls. Should have stayed. Retired. He looked back at the pod. If he didn't act fast, the AI would lock it down, or worse, destroy it. With a deep breath, he sprinted across the room, dodging another strike from the drone. He slid under it and smashed the pod's control panel with a shock tool from his belt. The glass hissed. Steam escaped. The pod opened with a slow, soft sound, like a breath. The princess fell forward. Raylan caught her. She was surprisingly light. Her body warm, not cold like he expected. She opened her eyes again, but this time they were softer, not glowing so bright. "Who?" she whispered, barely able to speak. "I'm Raylan," he said. "I'm here to help." Her eyes widened slightly. "Sister? Still inside?" Before Raylan could ask more, the floor beneath them shook. The entire palace groaned like it was collapsing. "No time," he muttered, lifting her into his arms. He ran. As he sprinted through the palace halls, they shifted behind him. Walls changed shape, doors sealed, pathways closed. The palace was trying to trap him inside or confuse him. He remembered the glowing blue lines on the floor. He followed them again, hoping they led back to his ship. Behind him, the defense drones followed, crawling on the walls like metal spiders. The princess clutched his jacket. Her voice, weak but firm, whispered in his ear. "The palace. It is." My mother's mind. Broken, angry, confused. Raylan didn't know what that meant, but he didn't stop running. At last, he reached the docking bay. His ship, the Iron Sparrow, was still attached, system still warm. He jumped in and sealed the doors. Drones slammed against the outside, scratching and hitting the metal. "We're leaving," he told the ship. The engines flared, the ship pulled away, and the palace slowly vanished into the red mist of the nebula. In the cockpit, Raylan finally had a moment to breathe. He looked at the girl resting in the seat beside him. She was awake now, alert, watching him carefully. "You saved me," she said quietly. I try to do that sometimes, he replied, setting course for the edge of the nebula. Name? Ilara, she said, first daughter of House Evir, keeper of the Star Bond. Raylan raised an eyebrow. Sounds fancy. Where's your sister? Ilara looked away, her expression turning dark. She ran when the palace was attacked. She took one of the escape pods. But the nebula, it twists paths. She could be anywhere. Raylan frowned. You mean we came all this way and we're only halfway done? Ilara nodded slowly. The worst is yet to come, she said. Naira, my sister, she won't trust you. She barely trusted me. Great, Raylan muttered. Crazy nebula, haunted palace, ancient AI, and now a missing sister with trust issues. He looked out at the swirling colors around them. And I bet the nebula isn't done playing games either. Suddenly his radar beeped, a small signal, faint but real. Another ship. Ilara stood up, her voice full of fear. No, it's him. Who? Her answer chilled him. The hunter. He followed us in. Outside, through the mist, a black shadow moved, fast, smooth, and silent. Raylan's heart sank. They weren't alone anymore. Sister of Fire, the nebula never slept. Its clouds shifted like living creatures, whispering across the stars in red and gold. Time felt broken here. Minutes could feel like hours, or vanish in seconds. Raylan stared at the radar. A dark shape circled them from a distance, just out of range. No signal, no ID. Just a shadow that never stayed still. Ilara stood beside him, tense. Her glowing eyes watched the screen. He's hunting us, she said softly. He knows we're weak right now. Raylan kept his hands on the controls. You said he followed you before. Who is he? She closed her eyes for a moment. His name is Soren, part human, part Ilari. Once our protector, until he turned on us. Why? He believed our family was too weak to rule, that the nebula should decide who lives. Raylan frowned. I hate people who believe storms can make choices. Suddenly the shadow vanished from the radar. Gone. Raylan's eyes widened. That's not good. Before he could say more, a deep voice echoed through the ship's comm system. It wasn't connected to anything. No channel, no frequency. Still saving princesses, Raylan? Or did you finally decide to die for one? Raylan didn't answer. His hands tightened on the controls. Ilara trembled. He's inside the nebula's mind. He speaks through it now. You stole her, the voice continued, but the fire cannot be stolen. She must burn, and so must you. Then silence. Raylan stood and grabbed his gear. He's after Naira. He knows where she is. Ilara's eyes widened. You found her? Raylan nodded. Your sister's escape pod sent out a signal. Weak, fading, but real. I set course while you slept. The journey deeper into the nebula was like falling into a dream, or a trap. Lights danced outside. Strange shapes moved in the mist. At times, Raylan thought he saw giant wings in the clouds. At other times, he thought he heard whispers. Kayla's voice. The wingmate he lost here years ago. But they pressed on. At last, they reached a shattered asteroid. Pieces of stone and metal floated around it, drifting like a broken puzzle. In the center, a wrecked pod, half-melted, sparking. Raylan landed the Iron Sparrow carefully. Wait here, he told Ilara. This could be anything. She nodded, but didn't sit. Her fingers moved across a control crystal, a weapon hidden in her palm. Raylan stepped out into the ruins. The air was breathable but dry. Electric. He found footprints. Light, fast, not human, then a voice behind him. Turn around slowly. Raylan obeyed. There she was, Naira, the second princess. Wild, glowing red eyes, hair like fire. She held a plasma blade in one hand, pointed straight at his throat. Raylan didn't move. You must be the friendly one. She didn't smile. You're human. Yes. Last I checked. Then you're a liar or a spy. Both die. Before she could strike, another voice rang out. Clear, calm, royal. Naira. Stop. Ilara stepped into the light. Naira's eyes widened. You're alive. Ilara nodded. Thanks to him. Naira lowered the blade and just a little. Then she looked at Raylan again. Why would a human risk his life for us? Raylan shrugged. Bad choices, worse habits. Naira frowned. Or secret orders. Raylan met her eyes. If I had orders, do you think I'd be standing here without a gun to your head? She paused, then slowly lowered her weapon fully. For a moment, peace. Then everything shook. The sky tore open. A ship, black, silent, sharp as a blade, came through the clouds above. Soren's ship, Raylan cursed. We've got company. Naira grabbed Ilara's hand. Inside the rocks, there's an old Ilari shelter. They ran. Soren's voice echoed again, louder now, deeper. You found the spark and the flame. Now let them burn. Inside the ancient shelter, the walls glowed with forgotten tech. It was part temple, part bunker, old enough to be from before. Ilara and Naira were born. Naira pressed her hand to a wall panel. It opened slowly, revealing a crystal chamber glowing with pulsing light. Ilara stared. I thought these were all destroyed. Not all, Naira said. Father told me to hide it, if the crown ever fell. Raylan stepped inside and looked around. Okay, anyone want to tell me what this is? Naira faced him. This is the Heartstone. It's linked to our bloodline. It stores memories, knowledge, power. Ilara added, and it may be the only thing that can stop Soran. Raylan looked between them. How? Naira walked to the center. We merge our bond here, awaken the echo of our ancestors. It will give us guidance. Ilara hesitated. But it will also reveal everything. Our secrets, our fears. Naira nodded. No more hiding. Raylan stepped back as the twins stood together, their hands joined. The chamber responded, glowing brighter. The nebula outside screamed. Soren's ship closed in, and inside the crystal walls, the past came alive. Visions of war, ancient kings. A prophecy. When twin stars rise again, the gates of the deep shall open, and one must fall. Raylan felt the words in his bones. One must fall. He looked at the twins, fire and light, two destinies, but only one would survive. The enemy within, the vision ended. The chamber dimmed. The glowing heartstone faded to a soft pulse like a heartbeat slowing down after a sprint. Raylan stood silent, watching Ilara and Naira. The two sisters looked exhausted, but something was different now. Something between them had changed. He could feel it. A distance. A tension. Outside, Soran's ship circled like a hawk, watching, waiting. The nebula had gone quiet. Too quiet. Raylan checked the sensors on his wrist module. We've got maybe 5 minutes before that psycho finds another way in. We need to move. Naira looked at him sharply. Back to your ship? Yeah, he said. Unless you have a faster one stashed under this temple. Ilara touched the heartstone gently, almost like saying goodbye. This place is sacred. We should not have woken it. Naira turned away. We had no choice. You saw the vision. Raylan crossed his arms. Yeah, about that. Want to explain the whole one must fall part? Neither sister answered. That silence said everything. As they moved through the hidden tunnels beneath the shelter, strange things began to happen. First, the lights flickered, not randomly, but in a pattern, like blinking eyes. Then Raylan heard footsteps behind them. But when he turned, no one was there. The walls themselves seemed to breathe. Whispers echoed off the stone. Kayla's voice again. You left me, Raylan. He stopped walking. Ilara noticed. What is it? He shook his head. Nothing, just ghosts. Naira narrowed her eyes. Not ghosts. The Nebula remembers. It plays tricks. Feeds on memory. Yeah, well, it can choke on mine, Raylan muttered, pressing forward. But inside, something unsettled was growing. A sharp feeling, like something was wrong, very wrong. They finally reached the ship. Raylan powered up the Iron Sparrow. The engines hummed steady and warm. But as the ship lifted off, Raylan saw a flashing light on his control screen. Tracker detected. Internal. His stomach dropped. He ran a scan. A small device, hidden under the co-pilot's seat. Stealth tech. Ilari design. He turned slowly. Ilara was sitting quietly, watching the Nebula outside. Naira stood at the back of the cockpit, arms crossed. Raylan looked at both of them. Who put a tracker on my ship? The air went cold. Ilara's eyes widened. A tracker? Raylan showed her the display. It's been broadcasting since we picked you up. Naira stepped forward, her face hard. You're blaming us? I'm blaming someone, and there are only 3 of us here. Ilara shook her head. I swear, I didn't. Naira didn't let her finish. I did it. Raylan stared at her. You what? I put the tracker, she said, voice sharp and proud. When you arrived, I didn't trust you. I thought you were working with Saran, so I tagged your ship. Raylan stepped closer, fists clenched. You led him to us. You brought him here. I didn't know he could follow it through the Nebula, she said, suddenly unsure. I didn't think. That's the problem. Raylan snapped. You didn't think. Ilara stepped between them. Stop, this won't help. But the damage was done. Trust cracked like glass under pressure, and the Nebula, it felt it. The ship shook. Hard. Alarms blared. A black tendril of mist slammed. Into the hull like a living serpent, Raylan grabbed the controls. Brace for impact. Outside, Soren's ship emerged fully. Massive, dark, shaped like a blade. It fired, but not at them. It fired into the Nebula itself. The clouds reacted, swirling violently. The mist screamed, real sound, not imagined. Naira's eyes widened. He's forcing it to awaken. Ilara's voice trembled. He's trying to summon the gate, Raylan barked. What gate? The sisters looked at each other. Naira answered. The Deep Gate. It lies at the center of the Nebula, sealed for thousands of years. It holds something. Something? Raylan said. That's not exactly reassuring. It's not a weapon, Ilara said. It's worse. Raylan dodged another energy blast. We're leaving. Now. He punched the thrusters, but the engine stuttered. Something had hacked the ship's power. The control screen flickered and showed Soran's face. His eyes burned with golden fire. You brought them to the gate, pilot. Well done. The stars remember their kings, and now they shall kneel once more. The screen went black. Raylan slammed a fist into the dashboard. He's already inside, Naira whispered. Then he knows the choice. Ilara nodded slowly. He will force one of us to die, so he can take control. Raylan stood slowly. Then we don't give him that choice. They landed on a floating rock island near the center of the Nebula. The Deep Gate was ahead. It was enormous, carved into a broken moon glowing with ancient light. Black symbols floated in the air around it. Reality bent near it. Time slowed. Sound warped. The 3 of them stepped onto the stone path. Saran waited at the gate. He stood tall, armored in black, a long blade at his side, eyes glowing. Welcome, daughters, he said. And traitor, pilot. Raylan aimed his blaster. You talk too much. Soren laughed. You brought them to their fate. Now choose, sisters. One of you opens the gate. The other dies. Ilara looked at Naira. Naira looked at Ilara. Raylan stepped forward. How about none of them die? Soren raised his sword. Then you will. The final battle was about to begin, and the Nebula watched in silence. The royal bloodline, the stars, Above the deep gate pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Darkness bled from the edges of the sky. Time moved differently now, slower, heavier, like every second was being pulled by the weight of something ancient and angry. Raylan stood at the edge of the floating platform, blaster drawn, facing Soren. The enemy didn't flinch. Behind him, the deep gate glowed faintly, whispering in a language no one remembered. Ilara and Nira stood side by side. For once they weren't fighting, but neither were they united. Shadows stretched between them, shadows that no light could burn. "Away, you should be kneeling," Soren said, voice calm but filled with rage. "You're in the presence of destiny." Raylan didn't lower his weapon. "Destiny talks a lot, I prefer results." Soren laughed once. "You don't understand the truth, pilot. You think this is about rescue? About loyalty? This Nebula was built long before you were born, and so were they." He pointed at the sisters. "They are not just royalty. They are keys." The twins exchanged a glance. Raylan looked between them. "What does he mean?" Ilara looked away. Nira stepped forward. "Our bloodline is not royal by name. It's royal by code." Raylan frowned. "Code?" "Genetic memory," Ilara said, softly. "Our ancestors were not just rulers. They were the guardians of this gate. It only responds to us because we are the last of their kind." Raylan lowered his blaster slightly. "This gate, what's behind it?" Soren smiled. "Truth, power, rebirth." Nira spoke sharply. "No, behind the gate is a conscious force, the deep voice. Our ancestors trapped it there when it tried to consume entire worlds." "And now you want to let it out?" Raylan asked Soren. "Not let it out," Soren said. "Merge with it, become it." He stepped closer. "Don't you feel it, pilot? This Nebula knows you. You hear the whispers too, don't you?" Raylan's breath caught in his throat. He had heard whispers, and not just of Kayla. Lately he'd heard his own name, spoken in voices that couldn't be real. His hands trembled. Soran smiled wider. "You were chosen long before you crashed into this story. Your path was written in the stars." "No," Raylan said, backing away. "I don't believe in fate." Ilara stepped beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Maybe not fate," she said softly, "but blood remembers blood." Raylan looked at her. "What are you saying?" She took a deep breath. "You're one of us." The words hit him like a strike to the chest. The Nebula roared in response. Lightning danced in the clouds. Raylan stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I'm human. Born in orbit. Earth colony." Nira interrupted. "There were survivors, Raylan. Long ago. One royal ship escaped the war, fled into human space. It carried a child." Ilara looked at him. "You're the last male of House Evir." Silence. Soren's voice was low now, controlled, like a blade ready to strike. "That's why the Nebula hasn't killed you," he said. "It's been guiding you, testing you." Raylan felt dizzy. His memories spun. Fragments of childhood, dreams, voices in the dark. A strange pull toward the stars he never understood. He looked at the deep gate. It was glowing brighter now, responding to his presence. "So, what happens if I open it?" he asked. Saran stepped forward, almost pleading. "Then we end the cycle. We rise as gods. No more empires. No more hiding." "And if I refuse?" Soran's eyes darkened. "Then we burn this galaxy to ash." A sudden tremor rocked the platform. The deep gate cracked open, just slightly. A wave of pressure surged out, knocking all of them to their knees. And from the gate, something emerged. A voice. Low. Ancient. It didn't speak in words. It pushed thoughts into their minds. "The heir is chosen. The sisters must choose. The pilot must remember. The gate must be fed." Raylan gasped, clutching his head. Visions flooded in. He saw galaxies burning, twin stars colliding, a child held in alien arms. and his own face in the reflection. Then, Kayla. Her voice. "Stop it, Ray, before it swallows you too." He opened his eyes, breath ragged. Naira stood, shaking, blood dripping from her nose. "This gate wants a sacrifice," Ilara whispered. "It always has." Raylan looked at them both. "No. There has to be another way." But Soren had already made his choice. He rushed forward, blade raised. Not at Raylan, but at Naira. One must fall. He roared. But Ilara moved first. She threw herself between them, a burst of energy erupting from her hands. It hit Soren square in the chest, sending him flying off the platform, down into the nebula. Silence. Raylan helped Ilara up. Her hands were shaking, her face pale. Naira stared at the deep gate. It had fully awakened now, open just a crack, but wide enough to feel the pull from inside. The voice returned, softer now. Bloodline united. Choice remains. Raylan looked at the twins. What choice? Naira didn't answer, because the choice wasn't theirs anymore. It was his. And the gate was waiting. The heart of the storm. The gate pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat, buried deep beneath stone and time. Its crack had widened just enough for light to pour out, not white light, not warmth, but something darker, like a memory trying to escape. The nebula screamed. Raylan stood at the edge of the broken platform, his eyes locked on the impossible shape within the gate. Behind him, the twins, Ilara and Nira, struggled to stay upright as the gravitational pressure twisted around them. Every instinct told Raylan to run. But there was no place to run anymore. The storm was no longer around them. It was inside them. Far below, where Soren had fallen, the clouds boiled. Then a figure rose from the depths, burning with gold fire, his armor cracked, his eyes brighter than before. Soren was still alive, but he was no longer fully himself. The deep gate had touched him. Ilara gasped. "It's begun. The gate is choosing." Naira stepped forward, voice shaking. "He's not human. Or Ilari. Not anymore." Raylan could feel it too. The man once known as Saran was merging with the storm. He wasn't just hunting power now, he was the power. Suddenly, time broke. Literally. 1 second, Raylan stood on the platform. The next, he was somewhere else. A memory? No. A prison made of memory. He stood in the cockpit of his old ship. Not the Iron Sparrow. The Rook, the fighter he flew during the war. Kayla sat beside him, laughing. "You always pull too sharp," she said. "I told you you'd blow out the stabilizers." Raylan blinked. This wasn't real. "You're not here," he whispered. Kayla looked at him. "You left me, Ray." He turned. Her eyes were hollow now. The ship was burning. Outside the window, the nebula, flames wrapped around everything. "You let me die," she said, voice breaking. "You chose yourself." Raylan clutched his head. "Stop," he whispered. "I tried to find you, I tried. But the nebula didn't listen, because it wasn't about truth, it was about pain." Back on the platform, Raylan dropped to his knees, eyes wide, shaking. Ilara ran to him. "He's inside the storm, it's testing him." Naira pulled a crystal from her belt, ancient and sharp. "If it takes him, we end him before the gate uses him." "No," Ilara said. "He has to survive it." Naira stared at her. "Why? Are you still so sure of him?" Ilara didn't answer, but she looked at Raylan like he was more than just a pilot, like he was the bridge between blood and fate. Inside the vision, Raylan ran, memories folded on top of each other. Earth. Fire. The day his parents vanished. A voice whispering in his cradle. "Sleep, little star. You'll light the void one day." He was back in the lab now, human scientists poking and scanning him. "His DNA is strange," one said. "Not entirely Terran." Then darkness again. A door. Cold metal. On the other side, the core of the deep gate, a black sphere suspended in air, pulsing. He reached for it, and when he touched it, everything went silent. Raylan opened his eyes, back on the platform, breathing hard, sweating, but alive, and something had changed in him. His eyes glowed faintly. Not gold like Soren's, but silver blue. Like starlight, Alara stepped forward. You touched the core. I saw it, he whispered. The truth. Naira kept her weapon ready. Well, are we all doomed or not? Raylan stood slowly, staring at the gate. The deep voice. Isn't a god, he said. It's not a demon either, it's a vault. A prison of stolen power, thoughts, emotions, entire civilizations lost to time. Alara frowned. And our ancestors locked it away? Raylan nodded. Yes, but not just to protect the galaxy. He looked at the twins. They locked it away because our blood was the only key, and they feared what someone like us might become if we tried to use it. Naira's hands clenched. Then what do we do, close it? Raylan turned to face the gate. It pulsed brighter, almost excited now. We can't just close it. The storm is already out. Soren is proof. Alara asked, then what? Raylan looked at her, then at Naira, and said the words he never thought he'd say. We open it all the way. Naira stepped back. You've lost your mind. Raylan held up his hands. Listen, it's already awake. Half open, it leaks into the galaxy. It infects people, corrupts time, warps truth, but fully opened, we can choose what to do with it. Or it consumes us all, Naira snapped. Maybe, he said. Or maybe we rewrite the whole damn system. No more crowns. No more chosen blood. No more ancient lies. Alara stared at the gate. You're talking about ending the bloodline. Raylan looked at her. I'm talking about ending the cage. Suddenly, Soren landed, hard. His body burned with golden fire, but he was barely human now. His voice echoed like metal on stone. You will not take what is mine. He rushed, forward. Raylan turned to the sisters. Do it, combine your energy, I'll hold him. You'll die, Alara said. Raylan smiled weakly. I've already seen worse. He charged Soren. Blades clashed, sparks flew, power crackled, and behind them, Alara and Nira joined hands. Twin lights, one silver, one red, formed a circle around the gate. The nebula began to spin. A wind like no wind tore through the stars. The gate split open. Inside was not light. Inside was everything. Pain, memory, love, death, the scream of the first star, the silence of the last. Raylan pinned Soren down, blood on his face. Alara shouted, Now! Naira screamed, her hand glowing like fire. They unleashed. The power ate her not to destroy, but to unbind. The gate shattered, and for one moment, the storm ended. Silence. Raylan collapsed. Soren vanished into light. The nebula turned blue, and the deep gate was no more, just stars. Peaceful, watching, waiting. The choice. The nebula was quiet now, where once storm clouds twisted like snakes around dying stars. Now there was stillness. The deep crimson had faded into a soft ocean of blue and silver, as if the storm itself had exhaled. The deep gate was gone. All that remained was a vast circle of floating debris, ancient stone, fractured glass, and threads of violet light, slowly dissolving into space. Raylan lay on the cold metal floor of his ship's medbay, half-conscious, his body wrapped in field bandages. His breathing was uneven. His eyes moved under closed lids like he was still dreaming. Maybe he was. Maybe. They all were. In the cockpit, Alara watched the stars. The weight of what they had done still pressed on her chest. The echoes of the gate's mind, millions of memories, voices from dead civilizations still whispered at the edge of her thoughts. She wasn't sure if they would ever leave her. Nira stood behind her, silent. She had barely spoken since the gate shattered. Her fire, once so wild, now flickered low. Not gone, but quieter. as if something inside her had cracked and was still deciding whether it wanted to heal. "He's waking up," Alara finally said. Naira didn't move. Raylan opened his eyes slowly. Everything hurt, but he was alive. He turned his head and saw Alara sitting beside him, a faint smile on her lips. She looked older now, not in age but in presence, like someone who had walked through something no one else could understand. "We made it?" he asked, voice hoarse. Alara nodded. "We did." Raylan looked around weakly. "Soren?" Naira's voice came from the corner. "Gone. Or changed. The storm took him." Raylan didn't ask if that meant he was dead. Some fates were worse. Maybe he had become part of the gate. Maybe he was watching even now from somewhere just outside time. He sat up slowly, gritting his teeth. So what now? The question hung in the air like a blade. They had saved the galaxy from the deep voice, but in doing so they had broken the seal that had held it in place. The gate was gone, but the power was not. It lived inside them now, inside all three of them. Raylan, Alara, and Naira, three bloodlines twisted into one path. A ship's console beeped, an incoming message. The signal came from outside the nebula, the first one they'd received in days. Alara opened it. A hologram flickered to life. A High Council official from the Alari Dominion, cold-eyed, dressed in ceremonial robes. "This is High Arbiter Jekson of the Core Alliance. The twins of House Evir are to return at once. The bloodline must be preserved. We demand a response. The throne awaits." Raylan stared at the transmission. Alara looked tired. "They want us back." Naira didn't move. "They don't want us. They want what we carry." Raylan stood, slow but steady. "Then maybe it's time we stop letting them decide who carries what." He looked at both sisters. "You said you were born into power, but maybe the real power is deciding who you are without it." Silence. Naira whispered. "You want us to vanish?" "No," he said. "I want you to choose." Later that night, if time even worked the same anymore, the three stood on the platform above the nebula's calm heart. Beneath them, the stars shimmered in quiet silence. They had one final task. Raylan pulled a small black case from his jacket. Inside it, a glowing crystal and the last shard of the gate's core. Alara took it. "Once we destroy this, there's no going back." Naira stepped forward. "And if we keep it, we become the next tyrants." Raylan looked at them both. "Then maybe it's not about keeping or destroying. Maybe it's about releasing." Together they placed the crystal into the heart of a small vessel. They launched it, not into a system, not toward a world, but into the void beyond the map, a place no empire could reach. No bloodline could control. As it vanished into darkness, the stars around them pulsed and like a cosmic heartbeat. The power was gone, not claimed, not weaponized, just released. Epilogue. Months later. Back on Vega Outpost 9, the same bar where Raylan once sat alone, stories spread. Whispers of a pilot who flew into the dead zone and returned. Of two alien sisters who disappeared, not as royals, but as wanderers. Of a gate that vanished. A storm that stopped. A galaxy that shifted. No one knew the full truth. Only that something had changed. And in the far corners of space, when new stars are born, the storm never comes back. Raylan sat in a quiet corner of the same bar, drink untouched. Alara sat across from him, hood over her head. Naira leaned against the wall behind them, arms crossed, watching. Raylan smiled. "So," he said, raising his glass, "no thrones, no crowns, no empires." Alara smiled. "Just freedom. And choices." Naira added, quieter now. "Real ones." They clinked glasses. Outside the window, stars blinked in the calm dark, and the story of the brave human pilot, the twin heirs, and the storm that dared to choose finally ended. Or maybe it had just begun.